Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the one and only show on the internet that tells you that dares to discuss topics like, dragons, wheels of time, space lasers, superheroes, these kind of things. No one else does it. I don't know why. No one's thought about it. We're so geniuses. I am Dan Selke, the editor of winnerscoming.net. I was out last week because of complications following my second COVID shot, feeling woozy, feeling faint, feeling like I should lay down for a while. But I'm back and I'm better than ever. This time, Mia Johnson, editor of darksideoftheforce.com, is out because of a Disney-bound vacation. And filling in, we have WiC writer, excellent man, homeowner, and all-around knowledgeable person, Corey Smith. Corey, how are you doing?
Good. But I got to say, it felt like you're trying to scare people away with your symptoms there on the second shot. So...
honest to God, I was saying it. I'm like, I am phrasing this wrong. I didn't write it out of out ahead of time.
A couple ibuprofen and you'll be fine. Don't be afraid. Get the shot.
Yes.
It's important to get the shot. Takes a couple Advil, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it.
You're completely right. I was saying like complications from the shot. I'm like, oh God, it's not like an anti-vaxxer. I'm not. Please get the shot. It was great. I feel better than ever. And I do. I mean, actually, I didn't really have anything bad wrong with me.
Yeah, it's fine. I took a day off. It's yeah. So it's fine, but I don't want to scare anybody. But yeah, happy to be here. Happy to be talking all these super nerdy things we're going to be talking about today.
We are, because it is good to have you on, Corey, because you're about as sunk into the Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones fandom as I am, and like all like the little all the tiny points that no one really cares about, like who betrayed who and who poisoned this person, and how and when, why and where. So we can get into some nitty-gritty details. I thought we would start with the announcement of not a new Game of Thrones spinoff. So a while back, some context. HBO announced they were making, I think it's like 7 in all Game of Thrones spinoffs. They're developing a bunch. We know we're getting House of the Dragon, which is the Dance of the Dragons, Targaryen Civil War show. But they're also developing like one about Dunk and Egg. They're developing something called Flea Bottom. They're developing an animated show, but we don't really know which ones are going to go, which ones are going to just remain in limbo, which ones are just like twinkles in the eyes of producers that aren't really ever going to get made. And there's also a Broadway play coming. But we heard just yesterday that HBO had officially hired a writer named Amanda Siegel, who's worked on a bunch of things. I think like The Good Wife, I think Hellstrom from Hulu, to develop 10,000 Ships, a Game of Thrones prequel about Princess Nymeria of the Rhoynar, who fought the Valyrian Empire, lost to the Valyrian Empire, took her people, got in some boats, and Gitfoed over to Dorne, where she burned them all and became the new Queen of Dorne. Corey, like of the Game of Thrones spinoffs in development, where would this one like rank for you on sort of level of interest?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I can do an easier one if you like.
No, I mean, I would say I would put it kind of high because in the books and all of Martin's supplemental writings, we don't have a whole lot about the adventure that Nymeria goes on. We kind of have the broad strokes. We know they were driven out of Essos by the Valyrian Freehold, which obviously shows up bigger later, the home of the the Targaryens and all that. So we just kind of know the broad strokes, and then they basically sail around the ocean and they get into all these different situations, and before they finally land in Dorne and kind of integrate into the society there, right? So I on the one hand, I like that because that's way different and wouldn't really involve anybody that we know.
That's true.
There wouldn't be, they'd have some freedom to kind of negotiate that. So I like that. I could foresee some challenges in the, because a lot of it is at sea, that's going to become very hard to film. I mean, initially they start out in Essos, of course, but then, and they do make landfall in different places, but that could
for a second. Yeah.
Right. So that could be kind of hard to film budget wise and just, to make it look nice and not like the same shot on the same ship every, episode. So I can see some I mean, it would structurally have some similarities to, I think, Danny's story. You got the strong female protagonist. She's kind of wandering around for a bit, going from here to there, and getting into different stuff before she finally settles. Nymeria, spoiler alert, doesn't go crazy like Danny does, but so hopefully we have a better ending. But I'd say pretty high.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I mean, as far as like the ship stuff goes, I don't know. Like post Game of Thrones, like the sky's the limit for budget, so I'm sure they do something. I mean, if Master and Commander and Black Sails, I know people love that show to death, can be good shows on the seas. I don't see why this one couldn't be. It would be pretty cool to get a look at like the Valyrian Empire, like which would be a real possibility in a show like that, like genuine Valyrian Empire, peak of their power, dragons flying everywhere, like armies on dragon back with maybe helmets or uniforms or something. Everyone has a dragon horn. They might even be able, what I would do if I were making this show is I would collapse this time period with the Doom of Valyria and just like have different kind of plot threads going. One, we got Nymeria and all her followers. I just thought of this, genius. And then one with the commanders over in Valyria who are going to get drunk on their own hubris and ambition, and then it's all going to come crumbling down. Ooh, I'm actually talking to myself into liking the show more. I always thought it was a good idea, but I think if they kind of have different threads, which they would, because that's like a Game of Thrones thing. Like you have different threads you follow. That's like part of the kind of Game of Thrones formula. I think that could be a fun counterpoint. And also, seeing Sothorios, that would be a cool new thing we haven't seen. And you're right that it is not a thing that has been explored very much. It's kind of dangerous that way, because Blood Moon 2, the whole way back thing, was like they basically just made that all up. And I guess it didn't work because it got canceled. This would be something that they have to, forge their own path on in a lot of ways. But I think there's more of a structure, and I'd be excited to see what they could do.
I think, you would be able to expand it into a lot of areas, because other than Nymeria, we don't really, character-wise, we don't really know anybody on who would be in that time frame. But I do, aside from what I was saying, unless they went with your idea and folded in some other things going on,
had it.
Yeah, and they would really have to, because the story would be focused on just them on the ships, right? So you wouldn't, they're kind of going around and exploring. So like they would collide with these different cultures, but we wouldn't really know a lot about those cultures before we, met them. So I think it would feel a little bit different from the main Game of Thrones show, because you wouldn't have all these various houses. You would just have mainly a few characters. So it would feel a little more compressed, I think. But which would be a good thing. I don't think we have to I don't want to copy paste, right? Of Game of Thrones.
I don't either, but I do want to see the Valyrian Empire at the height of its power.
Yeah, that would be an interesting. Initially, that would be an interesting, choice for them to make. Kicked out of Essos, or do we see the build up to that? You know what I mean? Do we see the whole conflict, the whole war, or is it just, the show starts with them waving by on the ships and sailing off into the unknown? So I don't know. That'd be a choice that they'd have to make. So
I'm pitching it right now. I'm saying you start off like the tail end of the war, and then like the Valyrians are harrying them the whole way until they go down. And there's going to be a Sotherian character who's having his whole plot, and then he joins up with the ships and they stay there for a while. I could see it. Happening. You have any other thoughts on this, Corey? Any other?
No. Like I said, I think it would definitely feel different, and I'd be down for anything that feels different from the original.
And we'll talk about another spin-offs coming in a second. But first, take a moment to thank our sponsor for the day. I think the last time we do this, guys, so get ready. Manscaped. You're in a wood. It's dark, overgrown, and crowded with angry brambles and thorns that bite, and also they pierce. If only you had a weapon to cut through the oppressive thicket and let the forest breathe again. This is a metaphor. And lo, now you do with a Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Trusted by millions of men worldwide, Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your sensitive grooming needs. If you're interested in joining the Brotherhood of the Forest Clearing, get it? We have an exclusive offer, 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. Where are you going? And the mighty lawnmower is not all Manscaped has to offer. There is also Manscaped deodorant to keep the sacred forest fragrant and Manscaped toner to tone it. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code FANSIDED20. Corey, did you know that I did those things? I forget. Corey?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if you were aware that we were sponsored by such an illustrious company. Were you?
Yeah, no, I wasn't, but I do need.
Damn. You are like, I didn't hear what you said. You are like going, like occasionally you freeze for like 3 seconds and I miss some words, but I think it's exciting. I think it's cool that like there's some mystery in this. And by the way, thanks, Christian. Hello, Christian. Hey, Agnes. Oh, Agnes says my idea is really interesting, but I thought the Nymeria timeline was long before the Doom. It is, Agnes. You're right. It is before the Doom. I'm thinking, because apparently their whole Valyria spinoff is not going to happen, because that hasn't been mentioned at all. I would play fast and loose. I would go ahead and just collapse some stuff. If like I'm thinking of like as like a screenwriter, not as like a make sure we get everything exactly right historian. But there's room for multiple stuff. And hey, Diane. Hey, Stephanie. Thanks very much, everybody. All right, Corey. So since we had you here, again, so you, like me, are very deep into, or just know the lore of this stuff really well. And I wanted to get your feelings about the one spinoff that we are having, House of the Dragon, which is coming definitely for sure. That's not a question. We're getting it definitely next year sometime. They're shooting it. It's a real thing. And you're familiar with the story. Have you read Fire and Blood, by the way?
Yeah, I've read most of it. I think I did not read the actual book included in the different short story collections. So I think I missed a little bit of it. But yeah, I read most of them in the little short story connections that he used to have.
But you know what's happening with the Dance of the Dragons with the Targaryen Civil War.
And I think it's important too to point out that I think we're getting the entire House of the Dragon series. Just from speaking with Ryan Condal, who's the showrunner, and from his comments in other places. I mean, he's moved his kids over there. They're enrolled in school. This is not a summer vacation for them, right? So I think that they're over there for however long the series will be. I don't think it's going to be the 8 seasons like we got with Game of Thrones, but however many seasons they have planned out, I think they've got a full series order. So
it is true. You have talked to showrunner Ryan Condal multiple occasions. Maybe you will again. Maybe we'll have him on this show. That'd be great.
Yeah, and he has his own podcast. And was writer on Seinfeld and Saturday Night Live, and they talk about all their Hollywood memorabilia collecting. And Condal has brought over a lot of his favorite pieces from the U.S. and he's got a life-size Gollum statue that he had to ship over. Like, he spent a significant amount of money to come over there, and like I said, his kids are enrolled in school over there and stuff like that. So it's not a one season. We're getting however many seasons they have planned.
I don't know. I mean, we're definitely getting the first season. Like, they ordered 10 episodes. Like, that's happening. I mean, if it crashes,
sure. If nobody turns
I don't
in
know,
and watches
man.
It, yeah. If nobody turns in and watches it, sure. But I can't imagine that the ratings, just by putting Game of Thrones on it, that the ratings would ever be low enough to where they'd be like, yeah, we don't want that. You know what I mean? So
I would guess that they have pretty much a guaranteed 2 seasons, but after that, it's up to them. I mean, they're going to have to deliver a good show beyond that. I don't think we're guaranteed the full story. I think we're guaranteed 2 seasons of the story, pretty much.
Yeah.
But if it's not a success, they're not going to do it. Same thing. They're not Amazon. They're not going to order, like, they don't have just Jeff Bezos money to just throw billions of dollars at whatever they want and get 5 seasons off the bat. Unless they want to try that and try to compete. But anyway, as far as House of the Dragon goes, how looking forward are you to this one? Like, we actually have pictures now. It's happening. Would this have been like the one you chose if you were in charge of HBO and you got to pick which Game of Thrones spinoff gets made? Would you have gone with the Dance of the Dragons, or would it have been like your second, third, fourth choice?
I'll say it probably would have been my second or third. I think Dunk and Egg would have been my first choice.
You and me.
Yeah, I think that would have been a nice palate cleanser. They're much smaller in scope, and I think it could have been a lot more fun and lighthearted than kind of the depends on how much of Fire and Blood you're adapting. My first choice would have been Aegon's conquest of Westeros.
Really?
Yeah, I think that would have been, because he conquers the entire, continent of Westeros. Him and his sisters interact with all the great houses. There's big battles.
True.
Things like that. So that kind of would have been my first choice. So that kind of segues into Fire and Blood. It's not that much before Fire and Blood. Sort of like Robert's Rebellion to Game of Thrones. But I think Fire and Blood I'm very excited for it, but I think a lot of it is going to hinge for me on, I'm sure that the political intrigue and the backstabbing and the betrayal,
it's all there. Yeah.
I'm sure all that's going to be great. For me, a big part of it is going to be the dragon on dragon combat stuff. How well that translates on the screen, because you've got some incredibly epic battles, between 2 dragons up in the sky, and people are falling off and plummeting to earth, and you know what I mean? So there's a lot of key scenes, pivotal scenes to the whole narrative. And if those don't work, that'll be, if they look small or they don't look expensive, that'll be kind of a make or break for me, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, frankly, the dragon on dragon stuff is the stuff that I'm not really worried about much at all. Like, that's the stuff HBO can do. Like, that's the stuff they have the resources.
All we saw before was the dragons fly. They were never fighting each other and having full-on dragon combat.
They were that one time when that dark thing where you couldn't see anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When you couldn't see anything, we don't know how well it worked. So, I mean, I do think, overall, if you ask, I do have faith. I think they can pull it off.
But they still have all
that'll be the big. They have to. No, I'm just saying they have to nail that part. That.
Oh, sorry. Blackout thing. I mean, I hear you. I don't think I have anything to worry about. I mean, yes, we never saw a full-on daylight dragon battle, but they do have all this technology they developed. They have all this stuff they invested. I think they're ready for that. I'm glad they never had a well, not glad, but I mean, it's good for the show. They never had a full-on dragon battle in Game of Thrones that you can actually see, because that will leave something for this show. And just toward the end of Game of Thrones, the giant battles were always sort of the stuff you could depend on to be really, really good. I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about all the other stuff. Or not worried, but I think I have more cause to be wary of all the interpersonal stuff, the relationships, the political maneuvering, the sort of plot clockwork stuff, getting everything to fit the right way. That, I think, in a weird way, is harder than the very big, elaborate action stuff, which I'm pretty much, I think they'll do a good job at that. I think they know it depends on that. I think that they're fully aware that if they don't do that right, they're not going to have a show. So I think they're going to go balls to the wall with that. But the rest of the stuff, I think, is going to be the real, like, can it last? Is going to be whether we actually like these characters, whether we care they're on dragons tearing each other apart. And for me, I probably would have chosen House of the Dragon probably first, after Dunk and Egg, maybe second. I mean, I'll be honest with you, for Aegon's Conquest, my issue with that from like a TV perspective was always like, it's the story of like three really strong people who bulldoze everyone and then win. It's like I didn't see like a ton of conflict in it. So that's why I was not surprised when they skipped over it and then went to Dance of the Dragons. Because that is where people are like, they're up, they're down, they're like, there's people who are helping from the ground up, there's like hubris, they're too big for their britches, and some are a middle path, they choose the wrong thing. There's a lot more like levels to it. So I always thought that was a better choice.
Well, I mean, I do see, I mean, House of Dragons got a lot, there's a lot leading up to the actual conflict. It's years in the making. So there's a lot of drama there. I do also maybe worry a little bit about the incest problem.
The incest problem.
We had that on Game of Thrones, but it was kind of relegated to just a few characters. Whereas on House of the Dragons, you've got a literal entire house of people related to each other. If that could be an issue. God, am I really
yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to, or just wondering, is if we're gonna have like full-throated shippers who are on Twitter typing in all caps standing for their favorite like brother, sister, or uncle niece couple. Like, and then they're gonna look back 10 years after that and say like, oh God, did I like really endorse this full on unambiguous incest?
Right.
I think the key is to lean into it because you can't soft serve it. Like it's there. It's so clear and so clearly a part of it. You either got to embrace the weirdness or like choose another show to adapt, because that's what this one is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's all over. So it's not just Jaime and Cersei and whatever in people's imaginary shipping in their heads of other characters. It's all the characters. So hopefully they have a way that makes it work and people aren't turned off by it. But I could see that being a little bit of an issue, at least initially. I think after you run it a season, people will just be used to it, right? I mean,
I think you're right. Yeah.
But initially you could have some issues with how much incest is going on.
I mean, we haven't like had like a moral panic in a while, at least about this. Like no one panicked over Game of Thrones with that particular thing anyway. I think it'll be fine. As Jen Casey says, people get over it. I know it sucks. Normalize it. But things like that happen in the past and happen in fiction. There's not danger.
Sure.
Let's read some comments. There's some good comments in here. Nicole Lovett says, we have another show. It's official. Nicole, we have a show that's officially in development. It is not like House of the Dragon where it's like definitely coming, but it's confirmed in development. Agnes compliments me and my ideas again. Concept will be awesome, Dan. I agree with you, Agnes. I'm going to go pitch it. As Nicole says, if you didn't get over it during GOT, I doubt they will with this. Again, I'm all for leaning into it. Let's get weird. The story's weird. Let's embrace it. Any other thoughts, Corey, on House of the Dragon in general?
No, and I mean, I like we were talking, but we should point out and clarify with 10,000 ships. Yeah, just they had a lot of. Remember, previously they had 5 shows in development before House of the Dragon was actually greenlit. So in development doesn't mean we're necessarily going to see it, but it does mean they're moving forward and they're at least trying to hammer out what that show might look like.
Yeah, they have a writer who is a real flesh and blood human being thinking of things and writing things down. I mean, they had that for all the other ones too, though. So
exactly. So, and not all of them went forward. So just because, and even, with like Blood Moon, they shot an entire pilot and then they said, no, not going to work. So until you get a whole season greenlit,
not sure what's happening, but Corey, you seem to have been frozen. Okay, you're back. I'm sure something really cool. You froze again. Whenever you freeze, I'm just gonna do I'll make this symbol. Just so you know why I'm not responding.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. As Peter asked, any date yet for the second part of Fire and Blood yet? Sorry. No, Peter, there is not. And I would not expect one anytime soon, knowing how slow George R. R. Martin is with his work. But we can cross our fingers. Moving on from the world of Game of Thrones, which is definitely on the grow. I think like the other really big fantasy series that is probably like directly going to compete with Game of Thrones. There's Lord of the Rings show. We know so little about that. I'm not really going to talk about it yet. Is The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan Brandon Sanderson. Amazon is putting the finishing touches on the first season. It'll probably beat House of the Dragon to air at this point. There is news that it's going to be out, I think, premiere this year. That's like the kind of the signs, because they're publishing like the Eye of the World, the first book in the series, like a new done version of it. And usually that's done right when you time with a new season. So that's exciting. Amazon, because they have all the billions, they just bought MGM today for like $8 billion pocket change, and Jeff Bezos' couch. Just go ahead and toss. We own James Bond now. There are 2 seasons in Wheel of Time. Corey, you have read the Wheel of Time books, or at least a lot of them, more than I have. I'm on book 4 now. And I just have to pick your brain about this. So they're clearly going whole hog on this. What chances do you think the Wheel of Time has to become sort of the epic event series Amazon so clearly wants it to be?
I'd say good. It like you mentioned, I've read half the books, and I've read double what you've read, and I'm only halfway through the series. So there are 15 books plus a prequel. So I guess technically that makes it 16 or something. So there's a lot there. So a lot of it, I think, is going to depend on how much they trim. I think the series lends itself to being trimmed, the source material. But I think it can be that series. I mean, it's got all the hallmarks. I mean, you and I have talked about it. I mean, it's got a lot of I'd say it's closer to Lord of the Rings than Game of Thrones as far as structure and just kind of narratively. It's got a lot of similarities. And so I think it can be that. It just, they're going to have to trim quite a lot, because obviously, I mean, even if they trim half of the books, that's 7 seasons right there, and that's a long running TV show nowadays, right? I mean, most now 5, maybe 6 seasons. So anything past that is a long series. So I think it could be
when they come out like every 2 years now, like they do, because it's so hard to produce.
And I do wonder if Amazon can maybe crank them out a little faster. They're not a traditional TV studio, right? So I don't think they operate by those rules. So, and they have plenty of money if it's a money thing. I think they can do it. I mean, that season 2 is already greenlit, so they have to know something, whether what they're measuring, what their metrics are that tell them that a second season works. I don't know, but I mean, they're not going to greenlight a second season before the first one's even,
I think normally they wouldn't. I think when you're Amazon and you're putting this much money into something, there might be like a too big to fail ethos operating. Like it's that weird thing where if you just pay a couple million for a series, for like a comedy or something, you can say like, okay, we can see how it does. And if we like, we can make more. But like, if you're investing, if you're trying to build an empire, like you kind of have to go all in or it's not enough. I feel like there's more momentum behind a giant series like this to get as much of it as possible up there, because here's the thing with like a series like that and Lord of the Rings, like some executives said this, if it's not a huge world busting hit, it's basically a failure. Like that is the weird irony of these giant series. And part of the reason I think there could be like a bursting bubble on this stuff, possibly sooner rather than later, I'm not really sure. So I think, so I wouldn't necessarily say that they're ordering season 2 ahead of time because they know it's brilliant. I think they're doing it because that's just what the economies of scale when you get something this big sort of require. Did you hear that? What do you think, Corey?
Yeah. I mean,
there we go. We're back.
I was just saying we do joke about how much money Amazon has, but I do have to think at a certain point they would cut it off, right? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, if they're spending, obviously there was more money involved with Lord of the Rings because they had to pay just to get the rights. But I mean, I got to think if they're spending $100 million, $200 million a season for like Wheel of Time, if people aren't watching that, I don't know. And then also, I don't know, this is something that we talked about another time is, part of why Amazon wants the TV shows is to continue to sell its Prime membership, right? Yes. So they're again, like we said, they're not a traditional studio. They're operating under different metrics than just eyeballs on the TV, right? So I don't know but then how do you track why I signed up for Prime right now? So I'm just saying, how do you track why I signed up for Prime as opposed, did I do it for Lord of the Rings or did I do it because I want my, diapers here in 2 days? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, how do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe they can like time it or something. Like, see if people sign up for like what if they sign up for like during the premiere or like during the run of it. You can extrapolate something from that. But I'm sure Bezos has some math in the back he can use for this kind of thing.
Yeah, but I will say that the ingredients within this series are there. The series can be an epic series. It can be a series that translates into a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, whether it does, I mean, who knows? There's no guarantees, but I mean, the ingredients are there. So I'm excited to see the show, and I'm excited to see.
I am too.
I am excited also to see Amazon take on these big epics, right? Because, like Disney, we know, like Loki comes out in 2 weeks, right? We know it's probably going to be pretty good, right? Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty good. WandaVision was pretty good. We know, and we kind of know the tone and what we're going to get there. And it's the same thing with HBO, right? We know what we're going to get out of HBO. And because HBO says we're putting out this show, there's brand loyalty there and faith, right? We have faith that HBO is going to put out a good product.
Polish.
With Amazon, we don't really, I mean, they put out, what's their most popular show? Marvel is
The Boys.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't really know them on that scale yet. So I'm interested to see how they do with those two shows.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm happy, I'm happy the people are being ambitious. Why not? Bring some ambition into the world. Swing high. Swing hard. What?
I said, what else are you going to spend the money on?
I have no idea. I guess.
I mean, buy another movie studio, buy a grocery. I mean,
buy Whole Foods. Yeah, buy whatever you want.
Do that. You've already got,
Some good comments here, by the way. It says, Agnes, my brother loved the Wheel of Time books by original author, but disappointed with the replacement author who wrapped up that anthology. Hoping JRM gets GOT finished in his own words. So say we all, Agnes. As Jen K, I hear you, Agnes. I know nothing about Wheel of Time. George R. R. Martin better not leave us hanging. Fingers crossed. And as Jen Casey says, yeah, cannot wait for Warrior, which I agree with. Corey, I think you'd love Warrior on HBO Max. I honestly do. I think you should watch it when you get a chance. Damn, this whole thing. And it's good that you brought up Marvel because our final topic of the day, speaking of Marvel, speaking of Game of Thrones crossover, speaking of what to expect from a studio and Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff being pretty good, Marvel released a trailer for its kind of big new swing for its next phase of domination. Eternals, about a group of superpowered, immortal alien beings who watch over the earth for millennia and decide in 2021 to get involved. Why? We'll find out. Let's watch a bit of a trailer for Eternal, which stars some familiar faces. Okay, so Eternals, kind of like this is their big new swing, right? Like it's not based on anything we already know. It's a brand new set of heroes. Um, and again, like not household names either. It's not like an Iron Man or Captain America or a Thor or anything. These are a bunch of new people. And also, yes, as Jen Casey says, we got Kit Harington in there as Dane Whitman, who, by the way, is playing a medieval themed superhero named Black Knight. Typecast much, you tell me. And Rob, yes, Richard Madden is in there as Icarus, the leader of the Eternals, who I believe can like shoot energy blast or something, super strength, flight, the whole shebang. Corey, what do you think of this? Does this excite you? Are you a Marvel person? Like, are you into Marvel? Yeah. And does this look interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, like we said just a second ago. I mean, it's Marvel, so I see. I mean, I'll see anything Marvel because their track record is so strong. I think the biggest, they kind of a couple people, everybody's pointed it out. Like the biggest hurdle they're going to have is how do you explain where the hell these people were, for everything else that was going on. Yes. The 7 other world-ending threats that we've seen in the different Marvel movies. Where were these guys? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I do.
You're going to have to answer that question pretty satisfactorily for people to buy in, I think. Because if you just say, oh, we didn't feel like getting involved, then I think people will not really buy in. But if you have a good buy in.
Honestly, I'm not looking for about that. I'm really not. I don't know. Isn't the whole idea that they're like kind of above it all alien beings who are not supposed to interfere in the affairs of the Earthlings, up to and including alien invasions? And I mean, Thanos is like their cousin.
But then what changes? Like what made them jump in this time, right?
I guess both go into the theater in November or whatever and find out. I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll talk about it. Yeah. I mean, so somebody said earlier, I thought was interesting. You said that, and I agree with you, Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty good. WandaVision was pretty good. To me, Marvel has a plague of being pretty good, but rarely like fantastic. Like, especially with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like it was good, but it never really thrilled me. WandaVision started off really, really cool. And then by the end, it was kind of like a Dragon Ball Z in a blasting in the air battle back and forth. No one really died. Like nothing really changed that much. I think they kind of get into a loop, and I feel like it's starting to sort of show. Like we know what we're getting with HBO. We know what we're getting with Marvel. But at this point, I know what I'm getting so thoroughly that it's kind of starting to bore me a little bit. I do think this one looks interesting because I mean, like just watching the trailer, I can tell it's got its own stamp. Like Chloe Zhao is now an Academy Award winner. So that delay worked out nicely for Nomadland. Yeah. Like I liked, you can tell like kind of like that soft dappled yellow light over everything. The big location shot, just a fan of. It looks different. Will it be different enough to like really jolt the MCU the way that I want? I'm not sure I'm really speaking for everybody here, but I would like that. I'm not sure about that. Because, the Marvels thing is that it's also planned and regimented by Super Junior's Kevin Feige. And, like anyone who wants to do something that different isn't really allowed to. Like Edgar Wright can't direct Ant-Man. Right. We just heard today about the Scott Derrickson leaving Doctor Strange 2 because there was greater differences and stuff. I'm just hoping, and I'm not sure it's possible, that a new Marvel movie can really send a jolt of excitement in a formula that has become, even if it's consistently solid and good, a little rote to me personally.
Yeah, I mean, they do start to run into that. I think you kind of see though that I mean, they are branching out. You know, you've got this, you got Shang-Chi and a couple other things that are different. But I do share your reservations that it could just be because you change the hero to an Asian American hero.
Yeah.
If you're following the same formula, it's going to feel the same, right? It'll be,
I agree.
See it, but if you're following the same formula, yeah, it's not going to feel very different. I mean, you know, with Eternals, you know, you are drawing on some pretty obscure comic characters. I do also wonder too, they're introducing a lot of characters in this movie, right?
They are. It's a lot of dolls, a lot of action figures.
Right. So, you know, they're not just introducing like one character and a couple, you know, 4 or 5 side guys. I mean, it looks like, you know, 10 to 12 major characters, right? So I don't know. I mean, like you said, I don't expect it to be anything less than solid. I'm definitely going to go see it in the theater.
Oh yeah, I probably will too.
You know, but I also thought it was interesting how, you know, at the end there, they talk about the Avengers and they, you know, someone pointed this out, how they say Captain Rogers, right? And so they said that's significant because they didn't say Captain America because Sam Wilson is Captain America now. Instead of
specific.
Yeah, they were very specific because it did sound odd. They said Captain Rogers and Iron Man instead of Captain America and Iron Man. So I did like that was a touch that at least the series, you know, because that was the thing with like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all those ABC shows, they didn't ever actually tie into the movies, right?
No.
There was no...
I mean, that's the Feige touch, right? Like that's Kevin Feige with the scripts in his bed with a highlighter, like with a red pen, circling everything. It's not exactly consistent and making sure it all lines up, which is both the blessing and the curse of Marvel, because everything is so consistent throughout, but nothing, or I don't know, not a whole lot like jumps up the meter. And that's what I'm hoping the Eternals can do. I'm hoping that Chloe Zhao puts her stamp on it. Like you said, like it's different. It's a whole team of people that's different. They're kind of gods, but which isn't exactly superheroes. That could be a little different. As Christian Hanna said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tied in, which it did. I mean, it had the guy from it.
Connect to the movies, right?
Yeah.
Like the movies connected to the shows and they got mentioned on the shows, but not vice versa, right? Like nobody ever talked about what happened on the shows in the movies.
Sure.
You know, so this would be different where he's actually talking about what happened in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And clearly WandaVision is going to connect back to the
Strange
movie.
2 and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I like that it's going both ways now instead of just, it used to be a one-way street. So, but yeah, I think it'll be a good movie. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a great movie, like you said, but definitely going to go see it.
Yeah, I'm aiming high. Why not? I want I don't want Wheel of Time to be like a kind of a rote epic fantasy. I want it to be great. I want House of the Dragon to be the next giant thing of TV. I want Eternals to be a shock to the system. Because why shouldn't I aim high and then be disappointed when it's like even when it's just good? I'm sure we'll be back here to talk about it when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's more along the lines of like the first Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor Ragnarok or something like that, where you kind of see them in a different situation and just a kind of different vibe to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that's like, I forget when it, I won't say it. It's coming out this year, later this year.
November.
Eternals in theaters. November. November. Yeah. All right, Corey, this is a good discussion. I'm glad we had you on. I enjoy discussing with you and picking your brain for your expertise. And whatever. Have anything else you want to say before we go? Any thoughts percolating any of these topics or anything else? Watch anything?
I will just say Mr. In Between has just returned on FX for its third and final season. That show, if you're talking about a shock to the system, is excellent. It's definitely a dark comedy, but it is incredibly well written and acted, and definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it's Tuesday nights on FX, and the third and final season just debuted. So check that out.
Is it available on streaming anywhere?
Yeah, Hulu has it. Hulu has all the FX shows, so you can check it out on Hulu. And it's only, like I said, only the third season just debuted, and they're 30-minute episodes, so you can get through,
Nice.
the seasons in just a couple, like a week. You could probably be caught up by next week's episode. So
I pledge to you, I will
very
definitely check it out, Mr. In Between. You should
Yeah, it's one of the better. It's definitely one of the better shows that's on TV right now.
Cool. High praise. All right, Corey, well, thanks for coming by. Always a pleasure to have you. And if you would like to hear more of me, more of Corey, more of Mia, more of our insights, scintillating, insightful, and otherwise, we are available in podcast form on Google Play, iTunes, wherever podcasts are available. Thanks for watching us. We are also back here on the Winners Coin Facebook page and YouTube channel every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Back next week, week after that, with more brilliant discussion. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and goodbye.